There's a skull sitting in a museum in South Africa. Small, about the size of a grapefruit. It belonged to a child, 3, maybe 4 years old. And if you look closely at the eye sockets, you'll see 2 neat puncture marks. Clean, precise. They match the talons of a large eagle. Something swooped down, grabbed this child by the face, carried it off, and ate it. And when researchers found the bones, they were mixed in with the remains of other small animals. Rodents, lizards, the kind of scraps you'd find in a raptor's nest. That child is one of your relatives, Australopithecus africanus, about 2.8 million years old. And it wasn't killed in some rare freak accident. It was killed in the most ordinary way possible, the same way a hawk takes a rabbit. Because here's the thing, nobody tells you about the first humans. They weren't the hunters. They weren't at the top of anything. They were lunch. This isn't the pop science version you've heard. Big-brained apes grab a spear and conquer the savanna. The fossils tell a different story. A worse one, a skull at Swartkrans with 2 holes that line up perfectly with a leopard's lower fangs. The bones of Homo habilis, the species we used to call the first hunter, chewed on by the same cats we thought they'd outsmarted. And the answer isn't one thing. It was never one thing. There are several layered reasons your ancestors didn't die, each one stranger than the last. And the final one will genuinely change how you see yourself. Picture modern Africa. Lions, leopards, hyenas, crocodiles. Dangerous, sure. Now add more. 3 kinds of saber-tooth cat. Dinofelis, Meganterion, Homotherium. A giant short-faced hyena called Pachycrocuta, roughly the size of a modern lioness. Heavy enough to crack open a femur with its jaws. Crocodiles at every river crossing. Above you, circling, large eagles that specialized in hunting primates. That's the neighborhood your ancestors woke up in every morning. Pleistocene East in South Africa. A shifting mosaic. Grassland, woodland, riverine scrub. Different terrain, different kill zones. And standing in the middle of it, your great-great-grandmother, 100,000 times removed. Small, bipedal, no claws, no fangs, no venom, no armor, no speed, not even particularly strong. A leopard didn't see her as a rival. It saw lunch with no horns, no claws, and no speed. Hart and Sussman estimated that predation on early hominins may have run around 6 to 10%, comparable to predation rates on modern ground-living monkeys. That's a comparative estimate, not a measured prehistoric statistic, but the scale is telling. 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 15. Every year. Not a bad decade. A normal Tuesday. So against a lineup like that, saber-tooths, giant hyenas, eagles that snatch toddlers, what could a slow, clawless apes possibly do? Turns out, something nobody expected. Here's the thing about claws. They're attached to you. You can't put them down. You can't share them. You can't make a better one next week. Your ancestors found something more versatile, a sharp edge made from stone. And here's what will break your timeline. The oldest stone tools we've found, at a site called Lomekwi 3 in Kenya, date to 3.3 million years ago. That's roughly 700,000 years before the genus Homo even existed. Whatever made those tools wasn't human. Not yet. Probably an australopith. Maybe something we haven't even identified. By 2.6 million years ago, Oldowan tools, simple, deliberately struck stone flakes, show up across East and South Africa. They weren't weapons in the way you're thinking. A sharp rock can't win a fight against a saber-tooth, but it can cut hide. It can strip meat off a bone. It can crack open a femur and scoop out the marrow. That's not a weapon. That's a key to a locked pantry. Every carcass on the landscape, every dead elephant, every abandoned kill, was a calorie vault that no other primate could open. Your ancestors could. But tools get you food. They don't stop the thing that's hunting you at 3 a.m. So, what did? Look at your body. You're almost completely hairless. Absurdly long legs for a primate, feet with arches, an Achilles tendon that acts like a spring, and you are covered, absolutely drenched, in millions of eccrine sweat glands, doing nothing but dumping salt water to cool you down. No other primate has this. Most animals are prisoners of their own body heat. A lion sprints, overheats in minutes, and has to lie down in the shade panting. Your ancestors built a body that could keep moving long after everything chasing them had to stop. Not faster, not stronger, just longer. In the midday heat, when every big predator is hiding, your ancestors could walk, trot, and run for hours. Persistence hunting, the romantic image of running an antelope to death under the African sun, is plausible, documented in some modern groups, but not universal. It was one option, not the option. But the anatomy is real. You inherited it. And then there's the shoulder. Around 2 million years ago, with Homo erectus, your waist expanded, your shoulders dropped, and your upper arm bone shifted its twist. Together, these changes turned the shoulder into an elastic slingshot, storing energy through the throwing motion and releasing it in a snap. A clawless ape that can hit a moving target from 20 meters is dangerous from a distance it can't be reached at. You can still do this. That's why you can throw a baseball at 90 miles per hour, and a chimpanzee, 5 times stronger than you, can't throw accurately at all. Your shoulder is 2 million years old, but endurance and throwing solve the food and defense problem for adults. They don't solve the bristly, real problem, the one that should have killed your species before it ever got started. Human babies are useless. Not cute useless. Dangerously useless. A newborn wildebeest runs within minutes. A newborn chimp grips its mother's fur. A newborn human can't hold up its head. It can't cling. It can't crawl, walk, or feed itself. It will remain a loud, demanding, calorie-burning liability for years. Years in a world of saber-tooths and giant hyenas? That should have been a death sentence. It would have been, if humans raised their children like other apes, alone. A gorilla, orangutan, or chimpanzee mother raises her baby mostly by herself. Your ancestors couldn't afford that. One mother, one helpless baby, one predator guild, the math doesn't work. So they did something no other ape does. They handed the baby off. This is called cooperative breeding, or alloparenting. Mothers, grandmothers, aunts, older siblings, unrelated adults, they shared childcare, they shared food, they pooled calories and pooled risk. A human mother who could say, "Hold this," or whatever the gesture was, 2 million years ago, had a survival cheat code. And there's a deeper wrinkle. Human females are nearly unique among primates in living decades past menopause. The grandmother hypothesis argues this isn't a glitch. It's a feature. A grandmother who stops having her own babies and starts helping raise her grandchildren may be doing more for her genes than another pregnancy ever could. Among modern foragers like the Hadza, grandmothers are often the most productive foragers in the group. That's modern forager data, not a Pleistocene snapshot. But the pattern it suggests is striking. You are descended from a species that survived not because any individual was strong, but because the group was tight, and that group needed one more thing. Your brain is a monster. It's about 2% of your body weight and burns 20% of your energy. Running a brain this size is like leaving the lights on in a building you can't afford. Something has to pay for it. Your gut? The human gut is roughly 60% the size you'd expect for a primate of your body mass. Smaller stomach, shorter intestine, less energy spent on digestion. That freed up energy went straight to the brain. It's called the expensive tissue hypothesis. You traded gut for brain. A smaller gut means you need high-quality, calorie-dense, easy-to-digest food. You need meat. You need tubers. And ideally, you need them cooked. Evidence of fire inside Wonderwork Cave dates to about 1 million years ago. A 2026 reanalysis pushes possible fire use back to somewhere between 1.07 and 1.79 million years ago, though that early end is contested, and this was almost certainly captured wildfire. They didn't invent fire. They caught it. Lightning strikes, brush fires, they grabbed it, fed it, carried it, kept it alive. Think about that. A flame, passed from hand to hand, camp to camp, generation to generation. Not made. Kept. Raw food makes you pay a tax in chewing and digestion. Fire pays that tax for you. And your ancestors spent the refund on a bigger brain. Cooking softens food, breaks down toxins, unlocks calories. It may be why your jaw shrank, why your teeth got smaller, why your face flattened. The cooking hypothesis has a timing problem. It wants fire earlier than the hard evidence confirms, but the trade-off itself is real. You're built to eat cooked food, but a bigger brain takes longer to grow. A bigger brain means a more helpless infant. A more helpless infant means you need more cooperation, not less. Every advantage your ancestors found tightened the loop. Tools, endurance, sharing, fire, brains, babies. Each one depended on the others. None of them worked alone. Which raises a question you probably haven't asked yet. If this system was so good, this stacking, compounding, cooperative machine, why did it nearly collapse? Though we were the prey framing, it's real. It's evidence-backed. The fossils with leopard canine holes, the eagle talon marks, the chewed H. habilis bones, those are in the ground. but the predation rate of 6 to 10% is a comparative estimate drawn from modern primates, not a measured ancient statistic. And predation fossils are a tiny fraction of all hominin finds. We're drawing a big conclusion from a small, if striking, sample. There's also a live argument about meat. Were early humans hunting, chasing down and killing animals, or scavenging, showing up after a leopard made the kill and chasing the cat off? Some researchers point to cut mark patterns on bones that suggest primary access to fresh carcasses, real hunting, or at least aggressive, confrontational scavenging. Others argue early meat access was mostly passive and marginal. The honest answer is probably both, shifting over time, and we're still arguing about when the balance tipped. Fire. The safe number is about 1 million years ago. The 1.8 million-year-old end is a single context, contested, and the cooking hypothesis needs fire to be older than the hard evidence currently supports. That gap is real. Don't let anyone tell you it's settled. Persistence hunting, the romantic image of running an antelope to death under the African sun, is plausible, documented in some modern groups. But the Hadza, one of the best-studied forager peoples, don't really do it. It was one option, not the option. And modern foragers, the Hadza, the Kung, the Ache, are not living fossils. Every comparison we draw from them is analogy, not time travel. Here's what holds. Whatever the exact mix, the first humans were not saved by becoming stronger or faster than their predators. They survived by stacking cheap, compounding social and technological advantages that let a vulnerable animal punch far above its biological weight. But the stack almost wasn't enough. In 2023, a genomic study dropped a number that's hard to forget. Using a computational model called FitCol, researchers analyzed modern human genomes and inferred that around 930,000 years ago, the ancestral human population may have crashed to roughly 1,280 breeding individuals. Not 1,280 people total, 1,280 people capable of reproducing. And they stayed at that number for approximately 117,000 years. 1,000 people, for 100,000 years. This is a model. It's one team's inference from patterns in modern DNA, not a headcount from a fossil census. Other researchers have challenged the method, the assumptions, the duration. Some argue that population structure across Africa could mimic the same genetic signal without a true crash. It is contested, but if it's even partially right, even if the real number was a few thousand, even if the duration was shorter, it means your entire species once fit in a single neighborhood. Every person alive today, every culture, every language, every face you've ever seen, may trace back through a doorway so narrow that a single bad century could have closed it forever. They held on. Somehow, with their sharp rocks and their sweating skin, and their thrown stones, and their kept fires and their shared babies, they held on. And here's what that means for you. You still sweat like a marathoner when you're standing still on a warm day. Millions of eccrine glands, firing for no reason your modern life requires, cooling a body that was built to keep moving through the midday heat of a Pleistocene savanna. Your shoulder is still a slingshot. The reason you can throw a ball with terrifying accuracy and a chimpanzee 5 times your strength can barely lob one is the Homo erectus arm you're wearing right now. Your gut is still small, your brain is still expensive. You are built to eat dense, cooked, processed food, which is why raw-only diets are so brutally hard to sustain. You're fighting your own anatomy. You hate eating alone. You instinctively share food. You feel uneasy when you hear a sound in the dark you can't identify. You get a primal, stomach-level dread when you sense something watching you from a place you can't see. All of it is inheritance, from a hunted species, from a prey animal that found a way to keep its children alive by trusting other people with them, from a soft, slow, clawless ape that survived a world of saber-tooths and giant hyenas and primate-hunting eagles, not by becoming the scariest thing on the savanna, but by becoming the most connected thing on the savanna. It takes a village isn't a slogan, it's literal biology. Human babies are built to be raised by more than one person. Your grandparents aren't a bonus. They may be the reason your species lives as long as it does. You are descended from the hunted, not the hunter. Everything that feels powerful about being human, cooperation, trust, sharing, planning, the ability to hold a goal in your head and work toward it with someone else, exists because your ancestors were vulnerable. Weakness didn't kill them. It made them. Strength came from weakness. That's not a flaw in the design. That's the entire trick. That's you. That's what you are.